But I had had success, and I had thought that my way of doing things, that I could always think my way out of it. Mm-hmm. So challenging my belief system at that point in time and challenging my thinking, I think was a risky move, because I could have just said enough with this place. You know, my first job out of law school was like, I was making $65,000 a year, but I also had $150,000 in loan. I was 27 and he had still been giving me money. And I remember he said to me, "Why am I still giving you money? Like, you're a lawyer, you know, you're making decent money now." And the reality of it is that I needed it for my cocaine habit on the side. Think about, like, if he hadn't done that, and I was in a position where I was like a trust fund baby. I really don't think I probably would be sitting here talking to you right now. Who knows?
This is the Recovery Guide podcast with Michael Herbert, where powerful stories and actionable insights empower individuals on their recovery journey to build resilience and make a lasting impact. I'm glad you're here, so let's get started. Today, I'm excited to welcome Craig Robinson, a partner at Robinson & Casey PLLC, where he passionately helps families navigate the complex intersection of addiction and mental health. He has a rich background as a civil attorney and a personal recovery journey that reshaped his career. Craig combines legal expertise with a master's of social work to make a real difference in the lives of those struggling with addiction. His dedication to saving lives and fostering recovery is not just professional, it's deeply personal. I don't need to know Joe Blow's story. It's not going to inspire me to recover.
Right.
You know, I didn't have that life. I didn't have all that was offered to them.
Sure.
Although I got to tell you, there's one guy that I don't know if he's in recovery anymore, Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And finally he came out of it. I haven't followed him.
Yeah. I haven't either.
But there seems to be a humility about it because I don't hear so much about it.
Sure.
Now that Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. No, it's well, seems like he's on the right path.
Seems like maybe he is. I don't know.
But those stories, I mean, I hear you on that too. But I think back to it, like, there was a guy in my life who wasn't like a well-known, like, he wasn't like a celebrity per se, but he was a very, like, successful television producer. That was a friend of mine that was becoming more public about his recovery. And I remember in my darker days that it was kind of the first time I didn't know anybody who was sober. I truly didn't. I mean, like, in my life, I had never really interacted with someone, at least who I knew to be sober. So he was putting some stuff out on, like, social media, and I remember starting to kind of pay attention. Not necessarily to his background in television and how successful he was and things of that nature, but more so about just, like, this guy I knew was a brutal alcoholic, like, drank like I did. It was the first time where I was like, oh, wow, like, he's doing it. You know, like, maybe I remember there was kind of a seed maybe that was planted in my mind at that point in time. And not that if I'm reading a story about a celebrity that I'm necessarily going to relate to what they have to say, but I do think that at least it caught my attention at that point in time.
I didn't know anyone when I got into recovery. I didn't know, and there was this guy, a family friend, Louis, who I heard he went to AA, but I didn't really know what AA was, and I didn't really know. I certainly didn't know what recovery was.
Yeah,
I literally didn't find out until the first time I went in treatment.
Yeah.
I found out in 1987, I got a glimpse of it. But then they would send you to AA meetings.
Yeah.
Listen, I was 26 years old.
Yeah.
Sitting around with these old people, like, this is bullshit.
Right.
I'm not going to be doing this. There's nothing interesting about these people. No. And so I didn't take to it. And I think because they put me in AA that way, and I was so opposed to it, when I then got in recovery at 29, I would not go to an AA. I said, I'm not going to AA. This is crazy. And so I went to NA.
Okay.
And people were younger. it was a little more relevant. Even though this is just my opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
Even the word sober
Yeah.
seems like it comes from the 1920s.
Yeah.
Like, who even talks that way? It's like, some other language.
Yep.
And where the other fellowship for me was just a little more modern and I could sit with. I realize now that my choice to that particular fellowship was out of my resentful, my thinking was off. I always had weird reasons for doing what I did. They didn't always make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it was almost, for me, it was safer. I don't know, what am I going to be sitting in this room with these old people?
Right.
What are they going to turn me into an old person? Like this terrible thing. But even when I went to the other fellowship, I smoked crack and did cocaine. These people are fucking heroin addicts.
Yeah.
These people are junkies.
Right.
I almost felt like a celebrity because I did cocaine.
Drugs. Yeah.
I was freebasing. I wasn't like, I thought people who drank were losers.
Yeah.
You're drunk.
Right.
And then these heroin addicts. I mean, you're serious. You got a serious problem. You're doing heroin.
Yeah.
All I do is smoke crack.
Right.
And it was just kind of crazy. And then I, later in my recovery, it was like, oh, there's no more crack addicts here. Everybody's now on opiate. There's these drug trends and changes, and like I'm feeling, like my drug is not being used anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I felt the same way. I mean, I relate to that also. I not with NA. I started going to CA, Cocaine Anonymous.
That was my first meeting, though. Was a CA meeting.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I started going there, and but these days it's different because if you're talking about 1990, I assume, or thereabouts,
89.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays it's rare that you find somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous who strictly was a drinker.
Right.
I mean, it's more, now it's like, it does seem, I'm sure it was maybe different back then. Maybe you had the true alcoholic.
I have one client now who sees himself as the only true alcoholic in AA. He says, I don't do any other drug. All I do is drink, and I'm the only one like that,
Every once in a while, I'll run into somebody like that. But these days, it's all, the whole landscape has changed significantly. Even if you're smoking weed. I mean, it's, I have a close family member who, recently got sober. We'll use that word, but California sober.
Yeah. Weed is a serious drug now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, these people are getting. How are you getting? But apparently, it's stronger. It's
about a quarter. I have to run the numbers, but it's about a quarter of our cases today where weed or some sort of THC infused product, whether it be one of these different strands that the cannabis derived. Delta 8s.
Let me ask you about legally, with all of the medical marijuana.
Yeah.
And then all of the, when marijuana is in states, it's legal.
Yeah.
How do you drive and smoke weed and get DUIs or not get DUIs? Marijuana stays in your system a lot longer than alcohol does.
Sure.
I mean, are these...
Well, it's a great question. I mean, there's two kind of parts to the answer. In one sense, you're talking about kind of a criminal perspective, and you're still not allowed to operate a vehicle while you're impaired, while your faculties are impaired. So I don't know if you saw the recent videos that were surfacing about like Tiger, for instance, too. And I'm not sure what substance he was on, but he tested negative for alcohol.
Yeah.
But they clearly knew that his faculties were impaired to the extent that he could not drive a car safely.
I got to tell you, I saw that video. I don't know if it was a real video, but I was so almost offended.
Yeah.
In his perspective, like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
That needs to be treated. Like your rights were violated. This is not the first time you've done this.
No. I think it was the best. I mean, truly, we're talking about consequences, and I think it was the
and then he calls the president.
Right.
you little baby, Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, actually, what's interesting is that Florida law has it's actually written in Chapter 397 in the Marchman Act. It has a definition for substance abuse in there. And so Florida law defines it as abuse, misuse, or dependence upon an illicit substance, alcohol, or prescription medication. So it kind of gives this loose definition of what would qualify. Now, we're talking about more for Marchman Act purposes, but we have a lot of cases where someone will come to court and say, I have my prescription to use marijuana, so there's no way I can be abusing it because my doctor has signed off on it.
But if you're impaired, even though your doctor signed, I mean, if you're on Vicodin, if you're on there's all kinds of medications that you can be on, and they say don't drive.
Correct.
Can't even be in a hot tub with them.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, but again, if marijuana stays in your system for 21 days,
Sure.
How do you beat impairment? Because if you did a urine test, it would show positive.
Sure. And there would be tests that would be done, field sobriety tests to determine actually to what extent. Just because it's in your system doesn't necessarily mean it's impairing your faculties and your ability to drive. So if something was in your system, there would have to be some reason to believe that you were incapable, that it was still impacting you to the extent that you were incapable of driving a vehicle. I'm sure that on those prescription bottles, or if you ask a doctor, when is a safe time to drive after the last time that I use marijuana or Vicodin or some other substance, there is a time frame where it would then be safe to drive after your last use. But it's a risk. I mean,
when you said when is the next time, I was thinking about the next time I smoke a joint. People don't even smoke joints anymore.
No,
it's like they do
vape.
Gummies, they do vapes. Yeah. Everything has changed. Yeah. I feel so old.
So do I.
So old fashioned.
Even I mean, I'm coming. I'm 7 years sober. Or 7 years in recovery, however you want to term it. But
no, you can use your term.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it slipped out of my mouth. But yeah, I mean, even in the last 7 years, from the time that I was using, things have changed so significantly. I mean, when I was cocaine was my drug of choice. Yeah, I didn't have to worry about it being cut with fentanyl back then. Yeah. I mean, that's a recent development.
It is really scary out there. You can't even enjoy your buzz anymore.
Yeah, right, right.
But what I have understood and realized in recovery is my life has significantly improved, and my ability to enjoy things has improved. I don't want that old way of living, even though it felt really great for a second, but it was literally the only thing I could do.
Oh, yeah. 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 Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like I couldn't do anything else. Everything revolved around it. Every vacation I took, every place I took, if it didn't have that, I wasn't going. Yeah. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And every person I involved myself with,
I'm
not gonna hang out with this person. They're gonna blow my high. Yeah, just being around them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was so restricting for me, and recovery has just kind of opened the doors for so many things.
100%. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. To that point, I mean, it's funny. You got me thinking about. I remember when I was in treatment, they wanted me to run through my phone and delete all of the drug dealers that were in there, because I had one kind of in each geographic location that I might be, going to. And so I don't even know how many. And truth be told, I never did this exercise. So I never delete numbers from my phone. I don't know how many contacts I have in there right now, but it's outrageous. I mean, there's people that are dead, for a long time. They're still, their numbers are saved in my phone. But I remember I said to them, and I still maintain this today, that if I was anywhere right now and wanted to get my hands on drugs, whether I had the number in my phone or not, I'd figure it out.
You'd figure it out.
It's not like the number in my phone. And truth be told, I don't even know how to find all of them. I'd have to go through them one by one.
And then you got to remember all the different Michaels or Johns. If it's John for this or
But I'm just...
Unless they have that little code name next to them.
I've got one guy from Philly still. he puts out, he's a very good marketer, so he still sends out these kind of mass texts, I guess, to all of his former clients. With his deal or whatever of what he's offering and whatnot. I still get these texts periodically. I show them to my wife, and we kind of get like a good laugh about it because I'm still on his listserv.
When you said you have dead people on the phone, I was thinking, I go off sometimes. I'm thinking, is it disrespectful to delete dead people, or do you have to keep them on your phone?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you just keep them on the phone for memories. Yeah. 'Cause I do it on Facebook. I know people who have died. Should I, keep this as
they're not going to be posting probably. So.
Yeah, that's so cruel. I want to go back to something that you said that I got to tell you, I was really impressed with. When you talked about treatment and your experience of it and what you saw as some of the deficiencies in how they treat in these high-end executive programs. I don't know if it's how they treat or mistreat or not really challenge, because we're dealing with a different culture.
Yeah.
So the culture of wealth and power is different than the culture of women or black or gay and lesbian or eating. It's a different culture.
Sure.
And that needs to be challenged. And so how do you challenge somebody's narcissism or superiority? You can't just keep giving.
Right.
You may have to take a backdoor approach.
Sure. Yeah.
But sometimes it is way too catering.
It is. I was blessed with an incredible therapist when I was in treatment, Josie Tynes. You probably know her.
Yeah.
Josie was my therapist. And at that point, I had been a lawyer for 10 years. I had had some success. At where I was not I was in treatment with families of billionaires at that point in time. So I was much lower on that scale, but I had had success, and I had thought that my way of doing things, that I could always think my way out of it. So challenging my belief system at that point in time and challenging my thinking, I think was a risky move, because I could have just said enough with this place, but Josie was very effective and very skilled at calling me on my bullshit in a way that helped me to realize, and it really started with kind of psychoeducation of what actually the disease of addiction is and how intelligence can oftentimes work against you in this scenario.
Yeah.
Because, when you're in that scenario, you're in an executive program, you're probably a good problem solver, right? You've probably developed some skills to be able to solve some real world problems.
Sure.
So how that equates to your addiction, at least in my own mind, is that I thought for so long that my problem-solving abilities was going to help me to solve this problem that I was having in addiction. Clearly not. But the reality is that what Josie did, and also with my sponsor at that point in time, I have to give him props as well. He told me flat out, your thinking sucks. Your way sucks. Now, he was giving me kind of a precursor to a follow-up lesson that he was going to be teaching me about God and faith and believing in a power greater than yourself and that whole circumstance, but starting with deflation of my ego. I may know a lot of things about a lot of things, but when it comes to addiction and solving my own addiction, it does not work that way.
It doesn't work that way, and you cannot apply the same solutions in law or in business to the same thing, because just very simply, in addiction, in life, if someone is falling, you grab and pick them up. But in addiction, sometimes you let them fall so they can experience the consequences of their choice, so they can feel it and learn from that.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take that away from them.
Sure.
It's just like families who, I don't want my son or daughter to have it hard like me, so I give them stuff. Well, if you give them stuff, they don't learn what you learn to be successful.
Correct.
So it just goes against everything that you want. Years ago they used to say, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. Well, let it hurt you more so they can experience the benefit of being challenged in that way.
Correct. But most parents can't. We work with a lot of parents who are of means, and their children, adult children, have been enabled for a long time. And so if we're talking about that kind of category of person, this is kind of a real common scenario in my work right now. Yeah. But I always tell parents that, really setting boundaries is, first of all, there's setting boundaries and there's actually holding boundaries, right? Okay. Yeah. It's one thing to set them, but what typically I see is that those boundaries have just been bulldozed through time and time again. So it's like, I'm not going to give you money if you don't do this. And then the person doesn't do this. And then they get a call and say, I'm homeless and I'm on the street. So if you don't give me money, I'm going to be sleeping on the street tonight. Or even worse, what we hear from time to time as well is, if you don't give me money, I'm going to hurt myself or I'm going to kill myself. And I'll tell families that, holding boundaries means that when your adult child tells you that you actually can say, the only way I will support you is going to get help.
And you know what? And here's the truth about those people, those young people. These are young people of means, wealth, and comfort. And let me tell you, they are not going to stay on the streets if they get offered a decent rehab.
True.
So, son, here's your choice.
Yep.
Go to rehab.
Yeah.
Or stay there.
Yeah.
Well, they'll, I'm not going to. Click.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Yep.
They will call, okay, I'll go to treatment.
Sure. I'd say that, most of the time that's true. I mean, we do interact with some families whose loved ones actually have remained homeless for points of period of time, just to prove that point. I mean, we had a guy.
Well, I think then we're talking about mental illness.
100%.
You got to be crazy to want to stay in the streets of South Florida at 90 degrees.
Listen, we had somebody in a court proceeding just a couple of weeks ago, who, in a Marchman Act proceeding, who was in court. We were about to have a hearing to involuntarily send him to a very nice treatment center, by the way. And he walked in and said to the judge, with his parents on the call, I would rather go to jail than go to treatment. And the judge told his attorney, go out in the hallway and talk to him. The attorney talked to him. He comes back in. The attorney said, he's telling me that he wants to go to jail. And the judge said, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you to jail. Now, this person, I always say this to families, what we, what we do, Marchman Act work, right? It doesn't work for a certain very select group of people. Those are the people that have been to jail and really do not mind being there. Yeah. There are those people out there that are institutionalized and comfortable with, three hots and a cot or whatever you call,
And it's hard to imagine that someone would prefer that. I know for me, I'll take treatment. You could, you give it. I'll do, and I'll love it. I love. You ain't gonna feed me. Oh, I gotta go to groups and I get to talk and just ramble on about what I think is right. And
I say to my wife, pretty. I mean, I don't have this choice, right? And I think, I guess I do have the choice. But
now you married your trainer.
I did marry my trainer. My treatment center, I owe my treatment center a lot. Because they introduced me to my wife. And they introduced me to my law partner, Richard Casey. So, my actual wife and my work wife really are like it was Karen that had everything to do with actually kind of the introductions of those two people. I proposed to my wife at in the apartment that I lived in when I was in IOP.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, because that's where I used to sneak her in while I was in IOP.
Oh, okay. So you were one of the cheaters.
I was.
One of the,
well, I didn't have anybody to cheat on, but I was. I was. Yes.
That's honest. That you were breaking the rules.
Yeah.
And because recovery, we're just not perfect, and we're not going to get it right. And I think one of the turnoffs of people out in the streets that think about getting in recovery is, I got to follow those rules and I got to get it right all the time and I got to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
And recovery is boring anyway. It's don't drink and go to meetings.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what recovery is, I don't want to be a member.
You and me both.
Yeah. Yeah. And so sometimes the way people talk about recovery
Mm-hmm.
isn't actually the way we live in recovery. And it's almost like people in recovery want to talk about all of the quote unquote recovery work.
Yeah.
Versus I'm going to talk about the recovery work, because I believe some of the recovery work is climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Is challenging yourself. It's not just, reading some literature and sitting around in a circle, raising your hand, rambling on about something, next. It's all of those other things: diet, exercise, taking care of your teeth.
Excuse me. I could use you as an example.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, with what you're doing with your nonprofit and your charity work, with your beekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I follow you. You seem to live a pretty exciting life.
I do, and I got to tell you, it is challenging. Like, I do this not-for-profit.
Mm-hmm.
And I practice some of this recovery stuff. So I have a not-for-profit. I provide a lunch program, books, and blah, blah, blah. Well, we needed to build some chicken coops.
Huh.
So, okay, Michael, we want to build chicken coops. I said, great, we'll build chicken coops. So they send me a bill for water, dirt, cement, and the workers.
Okay.
I said, okay, it makes sense that I pay the workers. It makes sense that I buy the cement, but I'm not going to buy dirt and water.
Right.
Get your own dirt. And, because some of the, they believe because I'm a not-for-profit, I should give them everything.
Okay.
So they feel entitled to everything.
Okay.
And I said, no, you guys got to.
You set a boundary.
You got to get the dirt.
Yeah, you set a boundary.
And the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, with not-for-profits, so we come back, oh, Michael, we need the water now.
Yeah.
I said, well, why don't you get the water? Well, there's a drought and we can't. So then I had to buy a truck full of water to give them.
Yeah.
We have the chicken program and we have lunch for the kids,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need utensils, we need somebody to cook the food, we need, blah, blah, blah. I said, why would I pay for somebody to cook the food? There's 170 students with at least 150 mothers who are not working.
Right.
Why don't they cook the food for their kids?
Sure.
So I would have to implement some of that stuff. And it's because of what I learned in recovery, that you can't just give things away. You almost have to earn things in life to really feel good about yourself. Yeah. And those people, I think, will feel better about themselves if they engage in some input. The same with in recovery.
Oh, yeah.
The same with a parent and a child. If that child earns their car or earns extra money or earns their way through life versus giving it to them, which chips away at their self-esteem because they haven't earned it. They only get it because they're your son or daughter. They feel like a fake and a phony.
Yeah. The best thing my father did for me, I think I was probably 27 years old. And so I graduated law school when I was 25. I'd been working for a couple of years, but I wasn't making like a ton of money. I mean, I think my first job out of law school was like, I was making $65,000 a year, but I also had $150,000 in loans also. So, it's like, I wasn't really, and my father, I was 27 and he had still been giving me money. Even though I had been practicing law for a couple of years. And I remember he said to me, hey, why am I still giving you money? Like, you're a lawyer, you're making decent money now. And the reality of it is that I needed it for my cocaine habit on the side. I mean, that was it. The extracurriculars, I was able to afford everything else. But the extracurriculars were getting a little too much. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, I got student loans and I've got this and I've got that. And he's like, no, I'm not able to just keep forking you over money every month. I think about like if he hadn't done that. And I was in a position where I was like a trust fund baby. And I was able to just keep having money no matter what. I don't know if I'd be sitting, I really don't think I probably would be sitting here talking to you right now. Who knows? But that is the circumstance where I think like, it's really hard for an individual to get to the other side of things and to recognize, yes, having had the opportunity over the last few years to build a business, to provide for my family, knowing that, my wife and I were able to buy a house a couple of years ago. All of the things that, truth be told, I have to tell you that when I was using, I was able to do them, but I also then ran myself into borderline bankruptcy, is what I would say, towards the end. And but it is a really fulfilling feeling. And also, I think recovery has given me something that I've never had, that I never had before, which is purpose. It's really, I think about my life as a personal injury attorney in Philadelphia for those 10 years. And I hope this doesn't come across as a knock on the field of personal injury law. It may, though. But at least in my own experience with it, my job was to represent people who were injured in some sort of an accident and recover money for them as compensation for their injuries, because the law says essentially we can't wave a magic wand and nurse somebody back to physical health after an accident. So how do we compensate them? We compensate them financially. And that's not just for their medical bills and their wage loss and all that stuff. But point being, I have to tell you, even when I did really well in cases then, I remember thinking to myself, like, what am I doing with my life? I just felt like I wasn't connected to the field in any way, shape, or form. And so it was leaving me with this sense of lack of purpose. I don't know how I got on this topic, but I would say that, like, today, not just in the work that I do in a professional setting, but the work that I do outside of it, the work on myself, the work with sponsees and, people that are in recovery. I mean, I love taking people out still and who are in early recovery and kind of talking them through these beginning kind of stages of recovery as well. You asked a question in your book that was on, I forget what page. I didn't memorize it, but I did read it, which I love, by the way.
You got to read my book over and over so you can start quoting it page by page.
I could quote it. I think it was around page 28 or so.
People do the big book. Page 72 in the big book says,
But you asked a question on there. What are you being dishonest with yourself and others about? You know what I'm talking about, right? It's in there. And
I think that's under the integrity.
Yeah. And actually, that question is in another book that I have been working through recently. It's kind of like a 12-step guide to recovery type of question. Phenomenal question, by the way. One that I ask myself, I try to ask myself on a daily basis, because I am sorry for the vulgar language, but he can edit this out, I guess, but I'm much less full of shit today than I was when I came into recovery, but still can be full of shit at times, right? But I can lie to myself today.
I can lie to myself. I just re-engaged with therapy, and I also am doing some work with my sponsor, and I'm talking, and I know what I'm going to say next. And even in that second of knowing what I'm going to say next, I say to myself, let me not tell this person this, because it would be embarrassing. It doesn't look good on me. And I say it anyway. And I got to tell you, even right now when I say it, I feel emotional because of what I view as the courage it took for me to say this thing that's so shameful or so embarrassing or so doesn't look good on me, that I'm willing to do that work anyway. And recovery has given me the bravery and the courage to not be so afraid of things that I don't really need to be afraid of anyway. I don't know where I got this idea that my imperfections need to be a secret. And kept only by me. And I'm in recovery now 37 years. Wow. I will also say to myself for a second, oh, shit, you should have learned that and been doing that 20 years ago. And then I say to myself, well, you know what? 20 years ago, I didn't know it, and I didn't learn it, or I didn't understand it, and I was doing something else. Because the only thing that matters is what I'm doing right now. 20 years ago is over. There's nothing I can do about it. But I do have the ability to change and do something different now. And I'm going to tell this therapist, I'm going to tell this sponsor. I also realize that I don't have to be so rigid. I don't have to tell everybody. You know, I don't have to announce it to the world. But I do need to get it out of my head. And kind of into the, because then I can get some other answers other than my own.
Of course. I relate to that. Now, 37 years is a long time. I think that what I still recognize about myself is that when you're talking about self-image and who we want to portray to the world that we really are, that we are versus who we actually are. And I suffer from that from time to time as well. I had like a quick example of this. It was a couple weeks ago that I was in a conversation with somebody. And truth be told, it was somebody who could help me out in a particular way that I was kind of looking for help with. And we were talking and we knew some of the same people, but he asked me if I knew if I had ever met a particular person. And my initial reaction was to say yes, even though I had not met this person that he was talking about. And I said yes. I said, oh, yeah.
The initial reaction was to lie.
No. And then we kept talking, and all of a sudden I started like really like getting consumed with this. Like, oh my God, I just blatantly lied to him about having met this person. And I know why I did it, because I wanted to build rapport with this individual, and ultimately I wanted something from this individual. So I felt like if I could build rapport with this person more by having affirmed that I had met this person that they were talking about, who I've never met in my entire life, that it would build enough rapport that maybe I would get what I wanted out of this person. And I caught myself mid-conversation. I stopped the conversation and promptly admitted where I was wrong and told him that I actually had not met that person, and actually explained to him the reason why I felt like I had said that to him. I think I said that because he's a guy in recovery as well. So he knew exactly what I was talking about. And we got a great laugh out of it. And I have to actually, to tell you, the honesty of it probably built more rapport than if I had actually met the person that he was talking about, if that makes sense. I think that goes such a long way that we don't even realize.
We learned so much in this process. This is unrelated, but I was talking to a guy. I was having a session with a guy, and he was telling me about Goldman Sachs, the owner or whoever started it, talked about his humble beginnings, started this company, this great, and everyone reveres him as this great guy, but he doesn't, like he feels like an imposter, or that's not him, but he needs to accept it, right? And the guy that I was talking with was saying, I often feel the same way. I said, but maybe the way you feel is on target. Maybe the way the guy from Goldman Sachs is on target, in that image of success is not real. And maybe you should feel like a phony in buying into that. The image of success might be the humility you have. I started a business. I do pretty good at it. I've provided for my family. That doesn't make me great. It doesn't make me bigger than others. It just makes me who I am. And oftentimes, this is my struggle sometimes with myself and try to help other people understand it. We also have natural talents. If I have a natural talent to do something, it just happens. I don't have to work hard at it. So why do I need to get extra credit for something that I do Now, there are some things that I do that are really difficult, that don't come natural to me, that I put a lot more effort into. That thing has a positive result, just like the thing that I do naturally. On some level, why can't I treat them all equally?
That's a great question.
A lot of my self-esteem has been negatively influenced by the fact that I don't give myself all the credit for things that happen naturally for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I only give credit for things that I work hard at.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
But even, in my work, I'm going to say in my past as a clinician, I did really well because it was natural for me. It wasn't because of, it was just part of my personality. People liked it. It was effective. I was creative in things like that. And I didn't fully acknowledge it. So even when people, oh, Michael, that was, I didn't take it fully in.
Sure.
And I really needed to.
Yeah.
In order to build my confidence and self-esteem.
Yeah. And I also think probably in your work as a therapist that a lot of the work that you did on yourself prior, I don't know about you became a therapist after you got into recovery, I assume, right?
How about we say this?
Yeah.
Maybe I was a therapist all along. I just didn't have the title.
Sure.
Because as a child, I always, the thing that I liked in school, I didn't like to teach, was a guidance counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that there was something about the guidance counselor that I respected, I admired, and I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And as an addiction counselor, on some level, I see it's like that thing that I saw as a kid that I wanted to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you think the secret to that is?
The secret to what?
Being a great therapist. Is there a secret, or is it just, it's natural?
I think there are some people that studied and learned to be a great therapist. And I think there are people who are naturally therapeutic. I also think there are people that are terrible at it and probably shouldn't be doing it.
Sure.
I think if we get in touch with our egos and this thing called humility, we can find out what we're really good at.
Yeah.
And, I've met some amazing therapists in the field who were in recovery and some who aren't. So I don't think recovery makes a difference or not. It can help in some ways, but it can also hurt in other ways.
Yeah.
Ideally, if children were maybe in grade school assessed for strengths and then moved into that direction versus, for me, school was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy who's going to read the book and remember.
Okay.
I have to, if you visually put it in front of me, I'll remember it. But you can't rely on me to go home and read the book and actually finish it.
Sure.
I'll get about a few sentences in, and then my mind is off somewhere, and I never get through. And I think school for me, the way I learned was a real disservice to me.
Yeah.
I never got more than a C.
Okay.
So I didn't think I was smart. I wasn't intellectual in that way, book smart.
Yep.
But I was very creative. I was very imaginative.
Well, that goes a long way. I also think to that point too. I think in today's times, with wherever society is heading, I think about things that like what school is going to look like when my daughter, who's 3, is like college age. Like, will there even be real college with all the advances in technology and AI?
It's almost like, what do you need to go to school for? You can just find it on the internet.
Well, the reality of it is, and the same thing with like being an attorney, I have to say, in my experience, was that I wasn't a great student. I was a good student, not a great student. I also that was in my heyday of using as well, so that may have impacted my ability to do well in school.
Well, let me just say something about that.
Yeah.
I have met so many people, which I find amazing, that are high, drunk, through their whole college career.
Oh, yeah.
And graduate. And get good grades.
Michael, yeah. Not to like, war story here, but I was using cocaine in the jury deliberation room in the middle of a jury trial that I was the attorney on in Center City in Philadelphia for a number of years. So now, granted that initially it was performance enhancing to a degree, and then it became, performance debilitating, probably I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't work out so well in the end. But I hung in there for a while, and I always say that cocaine for me was a performance enhancing drug for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we know where that heads. You get to the top of the mountain, and then it's all downhill from there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I was always the type. I always say this. My brother is a pharmaceutical patent attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, works for a pharma company, and he works with some of the most brilliant people you'll ever interact with. But what I find is, from some of his stories that he's told me over the years too, is that those individuals, like, you put them in our field, in the behavioral health space, like where they would have to talk to families about, addiction and issues that are going on in the family dynamics, their intelligence would not help them in that arena. You know what I mean? I think about this a lot with attorneys too, and as we kind of grow our firm, we always are trying to find attorneys that have this unique combination of skilled lawyer, and oftentimes lawyers can be a little bit rigid and rule oriented, and not really. What comes with that is sometimes an empathetic bedside manner can at times be lacking. I think for a long time, when I practiced law for about 10 years before I got into recovery and before I went back for my MSW, I never really thought.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
So you were an attorney first, and then why did you get an MSW?
Because Josie told me to. No.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, when I was in treatment, Josie had. Well, so I was talking with Josie, my therapist, and was trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. And I didn't think I wanted to be an attorney anymore. And we had these deep discussions about what it is that I actually wanted to do. And as I started to kind of realize the impact that my therapist was having on my life, I remember saying to her, I think I want to do what you do. I can't think of another profession in my eyes. I have so much respect for therapists. Like, the good ones, the bad ones, whatever. If you choose to go into this profession, and you're doing it for the right reasons, which I think ultimately is to just have a positive impact.
You're doing it to help people,
Yeah. Well, I mean, because you're not doing it for the money.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, some social workers have, figured out ways creatively in business and whatnot. But the reality is you're not going into to get an MSW because you think you're gonna
get rich.
You're gonna get rich off of it, right? But I do have to say, so she said, well, if you want to do what I do, I said, look, I just think I want a simple life. I think I used to call the team there the Build a Human team. Like what you all are doing, in my eyes, is helping to rebuild a human life, because I was destroyed, and I kept thinking to myself, like, I mean, I get emotional even thinking about it, because I remember kind of getting emotional talking to them about how grateful I was that these incredible people had just felt like they had been dropped into my life all of a sudden. And I wanted to be a part of that. So when I initially went back to school, it was because I was thinking that I was maybe wanting to be a therapist. So I wanted to have that ability to do that. And then along the way, I heard about the law in Florida and the Marchman Act, and I kind of developed this idea of kind of blending the two. The reality is I don't use my MSW today. I don't need it for what I do. I don't need it to use it when I talk to families, but it certainly does give me a much better background and a much better understanding of what families are going through.
I might argue with you about this MSW thing. I would imagine you use it. It is such a skill set to you, because if you're going to use just law, it loses the empathy. The MSW, the social worker, gives you that
100%.
And then let's even look into, maybe naturally you're a social worker. And that's what enhances your ability to practice law.
I agree.
Especially in the way that you're doing it now.
100%. I think to that point, a lot of law schools now have created JD MSW programs, right? Like a joint program, which they didn't have a long time. When I went to school, that was not even a thing. I think every lawyer should have social work classes as a part of their curriculum.
Yeah.
Because as much as lawyers will say, I went to law school, same thing, that I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality was, Michael, is that when I got out of law school, I had a lot of debt. And the only thing I really cared about at that point in time was making money.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know, my first client was a lawyer.
Okay.
The first client I had, I worked at this place called Intercare in New York City, an intensive outpatient program. Intensive outpatient, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 6 to 9, and one individual. So that's 10 hours a week. I had this lawyer. I had a lawyer. 3 days a week, 3 hours, 1 hour. I had this one guy that I did an intensive outpatient with for probably 4 weeks. He was the only client.
Yeah.
My God, it was torture.
Pain in the ass.
Well, 3 hours with a person one day is a lot.
Sure.
But I had it 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And I had an individual.
Yeah.
But it really helped me develop my skill set and working with really smaller groups. And also, how do you fill up? You know, we've talked for 3 hours on Monday. Now on Wednesday, it's the same thing.
Right.
But it also, all of this work in this field has helped me understand that this is an equal opportunity illness. And I've worked with the richest to the poorest, and they're all singing the same song around addiction.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And just, I want to use that word addiction because I like that word addiction. I did a presentation with a Marchman Act attorney one time, and I was talking about addiction, and he came after me. And this guy really annoyed me because then he corrected, oh, you know, we don't use addiction anymore. We talk about substance use disorder. And almost like I didn't know this. No, I purposely used the word addiction because to me, that encompasses what this is.
100%.
Nobody is walking around, oh, I have substance use disorder.
No.
No, I have an addiction problem.
Yeah. He is, when I was talking about rigid attorneys, that's kind of the type that I was mentioning.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're looking at it from a real legal lens, the law defines what we need in a Marchman Act case is substance abuse impairment, which would include a substance use disorder.
Yeah.
So we get like acclimated with kind of using this terminology. I have to tell you, I was always taught, I was a trial attorney. So I was always taught to just like say things in a way that that normal people can understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you talk about substance use disorder in certain circles. People aren't going to know what the heck you're talking about.
I was listening to the governor of Kentucky, and he said, the people here in Kentucky don't have substance use disorder. They have addiction problems.
Sure.
And that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah. And whether that's, I mean, I look at process addiction too in the same, the same kind of circle. I mean, to me, it's all really...
And it's addiction, and most people, at least the people that I've worked with, when you put down the drink or the drug, they got food, they got sex,
Gambling.
They got money, they've got gambling, they've got a host of other addiction problems, and helping people understand that addiction is bigger than a particular substance.
Yeah, 100%.
Is helpful. I get when people come into treatment, I understand abusers aren't addicts.
Yeah.
I also understand that parents are scared my son's doing drugs, and they may not even really have an official problem, but they were doing drugs and the parents got scared and they came in.
Sure.
I know one guy here in Delray Beach who came into treatment, I think, because he was cheating in college. And his parents sent him to treatment. This guy got clean and sober, went to AA, did all these things for many, many years, and then decided, you know, I guess, I don't need to do this.
Right.
You know, but he put the effort in.
Sure.
And I really respect that.
Yeah.
And so people wind up in treatment for different reasons. Treatment centers, I guess, to get paid, have to put them in as this.
Yeah. Well, that's an insurance.
An insurance.
Primary. The primary diagnosis.
But the truth is, not everyone has an addiction problem.
Sure.
Some of them are, and I really believe that we do have to start with abstinence.
Yeah.
to figure some things out. Once you're abstinent, then you can make some choices. You know,
100%.
And a good clinician knows the difference between an abuser and an addict. And you can create the treatment plan and the continuing care plan based on that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about where are we going in the field of Marchman Act, and where are we headed?
Yeah, it's a loaded question, Michael, but I love it. I think that, I mean, as you know, right now, Florida is kind of Kentucky has Casey's Law, it's called, which is a similar law to the Marchman Act. But other than that, there really isn't anything quite like it in the country. Where are we going with it? I'm not really entirely sure. I can tell you where I'd like to see things go, and that I plan on devoting some of my time to that is, there are a lot of states that haven't passed a law like this. And the reason why is because there is what I think to be a false belief out there that addiction is a choice, and that people have a civil right, call it a civil right or a civil liberty, to use drugs and ruin their life if that's what they want to do. I don't think that the majority of states look at this as the reality of it, which is that it's a disease of the brain, which oftentimes, if advanced enough, can render somebody incapable of appreciating their own need for help. And so I relate to this on a deeply personal level. I'm assuming you probably do as well. But in my circumstance, the hardest thing that I ever had to do was to ask for help, to admit that I had a problem and to ask for help. It took me a long time to get there. Went through a lot of pain and suffering during that time period. But ultimately, I look at it as, it took an act of God, is what I think it was, what I believe firmly that it was today, that brought me to be able to do that. There are so many people in such a deep state of addiction that there is no way that they can consciously bring themselves to the reality of the circumstances. When I was deep in it, my house could have been burning down around me, and I could have been sitting on my couch, and I could have been just telling myself and everyone around me, I'm fine. Everything's good. Don't worry about me. I'm good. I got this. I got this. So for those individuals that are in that state of mind, that are so deep in it that they are, Florida law calls it, incapable of appreciating their own need for care, and without care, that they are in harm's way, meaning they're at risk of substantial harm to themselves or those around them, essentially. That Florida law recognizes that as a state essentially of incapacity, and that therefore family or loved ones can intervene to compel that individual to go to treatment and to stay in treatment. And we're not talking about a hospital. We're talking about any licensed treatment facility in the state of Florida, essentially. So take your pick. I mean, but where I would like to see this country go is to start having some other states at least consider these laws. Pennsylvania, for instance, I'll give you an example, is a state that has a law that has been proposed, a bill that has been proposed several times now. It's currently back up in the House for consideration. When they have shot it down over the last few years, they have relied upon a study that was done by the federal government in 2016, which essentially found that involuntary treatment does not work. There have been other subsequent studies that have been done that have found the opposite, that the efficacy of treatment is not determined by whether treatment is voluntary or involuntary. So, look, today, if you have a certain position in life, you can find a study to support your position.
Involuntary treatment doesn't work, which then means people continue to use and die.
Correct.
So if I have 100 people and I put them all into treatment at the same time, probably the treatment program was so good that 3 of them get clean and sober.
Yeah.
There's probably 12 of that 100 who were ready for treatment that'll get into recovery, which then leaves 80 that are going to use again.
Sure.
But what I can tell you if those 100 people didn't go into treatment at that particular time, we don't know which of those 100 would be dead as a result of it. So treatment does work.
Yeah.
And mandating people to treatment, in my view, gives them one more opportunity to consider a different way to live. Because I know when I use a chemical, it impairs my thinking, and I'm more likely to do things that I would normally say no to, that I will say yes to. You know, at my bottom, I didn't need anything more than more drugs. I didn't need a TV. I didn't need a bed. I didn't need a blanket. In my refrigerator, I had a jar of jalapeno peppers, period.
That was your food?
That was it in my refrigerator.
Wow.
And I had lost so much. And my last days of using, I had this white hoodie on. And I walked past a glass mirror and a store, and I saw the reflection of myself. And I was just humiliated. I said, this is what I've become. I couldn't see myself until I saw that reflection.
And that's it. And thank God you saw that reflection and had that epiphany.
And you know what I did? I went to a shelter. And by then, I went to a shelter.
Wow.
And I had been living in the YMCA by then. And they packed up all my things, and they told me I couldn't have them because I didn't pay the rent. So I went to the shelter, and I got into the, I was just dirty and devastated. And
where was this?
This was in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
And I went into and they said, oh, the showers are over there. You can take a shower. And I said, excuse me? How am I going to take a shower? I don't have any shower shoes. How am I going to take a shower where these homeless people have been? The arrogance came right back. The superiority came right back. The nice thing about the YMCA was I was in the shelter for about a day. And the Monday I went to the Y and I said, listen, I need to go to treatment, and my insurance card is in my bag. Could you let me get? So they were gracious enough to let me get my insurance card.
Oh my God.
I stayed in the shelter. I was there for like 2 nights. Like I like to tell people, I wound up in a shelter. It was only for 2 nights. And then I went to treatment. A great program called Conifer Park, upstate New York.
Wow.
It was owned by Avon Corporation then. So they put all of this money into it. I was there for 30 days. I loved it. I wanted to stay longer. They said, well, Michael, we're only a 30-day program, but we do think you need more. And they sent me to a therapeutic community in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Wow.
Central Naugatuck Help Incorporated.
Okay.
And they sent me there for 7 months.
Wow.
And I hated that place. It was the worst place in the world. But when I reflect on it now, it was the place that gave me humility, the humility that I needed. And the reality was, every time I tried to walk out, I would ask myself the question, well, where am I going to go? There was nowhere to go. So let me stick this thing out. I stuck it out, and here I am today.
Amazing.
And I got here from the worst place in the world, which I called it then. It was really the best thing for me. I didn't realize it, until my head needed to clear up, and I needed some time under my belt. And I needed to come down to earth and realize, you know what? All of these things happen for a reason. So I don't have any regrets from the past. If I could have one regret from the past, the only regret I would have is my use of nicotine. I wish I never smoked. But other than that,
That's I relate to that on a lot of levels. Deflation of the ego. I'd gone from being an attorney for 10 years to I ended up working for this law firm as a clerk because I wasn't licensed down here yet. Making whatever I was making, $20 an hour or something like that. The guy said, you can come and go as you please, but I'm only going to pay you for the time that you're here. And thankfully, good people around me advised me that take this kind of more recovery-oriented job. But I relate to that on a lot of levels. But just back to your question, about the Marchman Act. A therapist said to me recently, one that but we'll let him go nameless. he called me and said, I'm hearing all this talk about this Marchman Act. It seems like everybody's kind of promoting it. Like it's this thing that people are giving presentations and they're out there doing like kind of like ads about it. And he said, I'm just kind of thinking it's like kind of overdone, like it's too much. And I respected his position on that. I think at times, hopefully I never come across this way, but I may, fall into this as well of promoting it. But I do feel like one of the conversations I was having recently was how very few clinicians in the practice in the state of Florida that could even tell me what the criteria of a Marchman Act are. I go into a lot of facilities, and part of the work I do this for free, by the way. So if there's any facilities or people listening, because I really feel like if clinicians are not well trained in this stuff, whether it be the Marchman Act, the Baker Act, or just legal tools available to them too, to potentially implement, that there are people, I firmly believe that there are people who have lost their lives because clinicians, to no fault of their own. I went to school for an MSW. I kept waiting for the Marchman Act lecture. I kept asking them because I was doing that work a little bit at the time. And they said, we don't cover it in our curriculum. How do you not cover it in your curriculum? It's a legal tool that a therapist can utilize, similar to the way they can utilize a Baker Act to potentially save somebody's life.
So I don't know what the Marchman Act all is.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it makes sense. I don't know that I need a full lecture.
Not a full lecture.
But as a tool, there are people, I would say a loved one, someone you love who you're watching kill themselves, and that they're impaired and are not making the best decisions for themselves. Yeah. You have to force them to get this opportunity. And I may not be exact on this, I love it's a minimum of 90 days, and then you can add another 90 days onto it.
It is actually a maximum of 90 days.
Okay.
And then you can add another 90 days onto
it.
Okay,
maximum.
And you could keep doing that theoretically. Now, obviously, that's not the normal course, but we do have a case, quite honestly, that's been going on for over 2 years right now. But that's an individual that has continuously relapsed during the course of the Marchman Act. That is not the norm. Yeah. But it's a when I say it's a maximum, if someone's coming into treatment involuntarily and they're in really bad shape, which most of the people are, I mean, the minimum recommendation is generally going to be 90 days throughout the course of the
very generally, 30 days, I can hold on to my defenses for 30 days.
Yeah.
So usually around 35 or 40 days is when treatment can start to really seep in.
100%. Yeah.
So 28-day programs, on my view, don't work unless you're working with a highly motivated person.
Yes.
And they are few and far between.
Correct.
I also don't believe recovery happens until you got about a year.
Yeah.
Of practicing and figuring out what works for you. All of the first year is discovery.
Yeah.
It's how do we discover what works for me, what doesn't work for me, this, that, and the other. And once I've practiced it for a period of time, then it becomes recovery, and then you could officially relapse.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Anything in between there is No, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. So this has been a great conversation. I just want to ask as the last question, is there who is the best candidate for Marchman? Is it just across the board? Is it the young person? Is it the... who is...
Great question. Our most common case are parents of adult children in their late teens, 20s, 30s, sometimes 40s, sometimes 50s.
Yeah.
But that's the most common case we see. I don't think that that's necessarily the ideal candidate. I mean, I have to tell you, the oldest person that we Marchman Acted was in her early 80s. And
wow, I can't imagine. 80-year-old woman.
Yeah.
You got a Marchman Act.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you that this was a few years ago. Not that long after we Marchman Acted her, I had actually never met her. I had met her husband, who we represented, but I was out to dinner in Delray, and I looked over at a table, and this is months after the Marchman Act had ended, and it was my client, and he waved me over to the table, but I had never met his wife, who we Marchman Acted, and he just pulled me aside and he said, like, thank you. We've I hate to say, when he says thank you, the reality is we were just a kind of a catalyst in the situation. The treatment center actually that worked with her was the one that did the real heavy lifting with this woman, because yes, 82 years old, severe alcoholic, to as you kind of get older, it becomes more difficult to change those old behaviors, I think. But he said she's doing well, she's sober, and we're able to have a real relationship. So it doesn't discriminate. We have cases. We have someone right now in their late 70s that's going forward with it. Early stage alcohol-induced dementia, most likely, that kind of a scenario. But the most common candidate is the parents of adult children that we see. But I would just say, really, at the end of the day, bottom line, to your point, is now, I also have to just say the Marchman Act does account for co-occurring mental health disorders. We have a case right now where eating disorder is probably the primary disorder. I'm not really sure, but substance abuse might be a secondary issue. And so that still qualifies under the Marchman Act. As long as the person has a substance use disorder, they've got a past history of some level of non-compliance, they're unlikely to voluntarily go through treatment throughout all levels of care and all recommendations, and that without treatment, they are at risk of substantial harm to themselves or those around them. As long as those boxes are checked, essentially, then anyone in that category can be a candidate. But it's a boundary. It's a boundary that a lot of our families, I've been talking to a lot of families myself lately, and the common theme is, we just want to give it a little more time. And just want to give it a little more time. Yeah. And I respect that. I have to tell you, I'm probably the least pushy person on the phone, because it's not really my place. At the end of the day, I look at the consultation I have with the family oftentimes as a therapy session. Yeah. And it's my job maybe to just ask the right questions, not necessarily tell them what they should do and what they shouldn't do. But you've been doing this for 10 years. Yeah. What do you think a little more time is actually going to lead to?
There are times that I've told parents, like, your son or daughter can die in the streets or die in your basement. Yeah. They're probably not going to die in treatment.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you. And so the intervention oftentimes is on the family. Yeah. Not on the addict. Because when the family changes, it forces the addict to change. Oh, yeah. So when I do intervention, I talk about, you're going to be the most important tool in this. Because when you change, it forces them. They can't continue to do what they're doing unless they find another enabler.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You to your point, what we quickly realize, I'd say in all of our cases, is that the apple has not fallen far from the tree.
Nope.
Right? Now we're dealing with the tree on our end. Yeah. Right? We're not ever interacting with the apple. Yeah. Okay. So we're dealing with the tree, which is actually where the root of the problem exists. And man, I wish I had, because you've been at this a lot longer than I have. You asked me about the social work and the how the impact that has on my ability to talk to these families. It is significant, because the reality of it is that what I never really thought about, and what I realize way more now today than I did before, is how much our upbringing and our childhood and the things that we went through when we were a child impacts who we are today. Never really thought about it, Michael. If you had asked me, how was your childhood? And I'm not saying I had a bad childhood, but there were things that I never really properly addressed that occurred that I had no idea how much were actually impacting me towards the end of my addiction, and even still to this day.
I got to tell you, I went through a retreat called the Hoffman process.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I got to tell you, this thing was so powerful because who I am or who I became was a result of my parents. I lost who I was at birth because I met them. And they influenced. My mother was born during the Depression.
Right.
So, of course, she has issues with money that she passes down to me that I'm not born during the Depression. Why do I have this anxiety around money? Yeah. Well, because it was taught to me. I learned about relationships, all of this stuff. And my mother and father were born in the 1800s from another time. So, of course, she was given stuff that wasn't applicable to her, which she gave to her kids. It's not So I had to also learn how to recover from my parents.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, they just passed on stuff to me. But to your point also about families, you can list the consequences of the addict are usually exactly the consequences. The family members have gone through the same thing the addict has, but they get far less treatment for it.
Sure.
So on some level, could be seen as more impaired than the addict. They just don't even have the drug thing.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And try addressing that with them on you got to tread carefully with that one as well. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But that's why also I think
I always start with, not to be disrespectful, but
or well, how I word it is this may not land well. But I'm going to say it anyway. You know, let's just soften the blow a little bit.
And you got to help them. So I've learned to be direct with people. You know, I have to assess them what they can tolerate. But usually they can tolerate more than I think that they can. You know, they're open to it.
Agreed.
And as a interventionist, as a coach, as a counselor, I have to challenge my own fears in saying what I believe is the truth. And I can start with, I can be wrong, but you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Sure. No, that's a very skilled way to
you know, but I have to get that point across. I have to help these people if I'm going to do my job. And what they're paying me for is the truth.
Right. And I'll just take that one step further. The gentleman who I talked about, my sponsor, who never graduated high school, by the way, and I had been a lawyer at that point in time. And when he was telling me that your way sucks and your thinking sucks, and then I remember what he always used to say is, truth is hate to those who hate the truth, which I love that line, right? Because it's so, I mean, it's just perfect, right? And it's so relatable to what our families deal with. The truth is hate to those who hate the truth. And for how long did I hate the truth? And did I avoid the truth? But I needed that man with no high school diploma to look me in the eyes with all my degrees hanging on the wall, made me think that I was so important for so long, and tell me, your way sucks.
Your way.
And thank God I heard him. But you know, that's got to be
your sponsor.
Nice. He's been a godsend. Been a godsend.
So Craig, how do people get in touch with you? Social media, your office?
I don't know, Michael. How do they get in touch with me? No, I mean, our social media, I think I pass along to your I think that'll be kind of incorporated. I don't even know what my social media. It's Craig Robinson is my name, which is a common name. So, but you know, look for this face. But Robinson and Casey is our law firm. Our website is just robinsoncasey.com or we'vebeenthere.com. That's another way you can access it. We'vebeenthere.com.
Nice. Phone number?
561-849-4700 is the best number to call.
You got to say it at least twice.
561-849-4700. My email address is craig@robinsoncasey.com. Easy way to reach me. Send me a message on social media, whatever. And that goes for not just in a professional setting, but truly, I as I said to you, I think it's our obligation, our responsibility to give back what was freely given to us, and that's so. If anybody happens to listen to this that's struggling as well, those are the people I like to hear from.
So it was great having you.
Yeah.
It was great that you gave props to your therapist.
Yeah.
You also told the truth about treatment and what it is. And it just really is refreshing, to hear your voice in what you offer people in recovery as an alternative to getting into treatment and to getting into help.
Yeah, thank you. Should we do this on air, by the way? But I want you to sign the book. But
Let me sign your copy of The Recovery Roadmap, A Guide to Freedom and Adventure.
Can we plug that as well? And can I also just note that it is my daughter's favorite book, again, who is 3 years old. I don't know if this is like foreshadowing or a sign of things to come, hopefully, but your book is out on my bookshelf. And for whatever reason, you think it's because of the color of the front page.
Maybe the orange.
But I think that there's a deeper meaning there. I think that she truly doesn't even know how much she loves the message in your book.
So she may have the social worker in her.
She does.
Naturally, And so the foreshadowing may be that she becomes a great clinician without having to do some of the research.
Listen,
you did.
The one thing I know, though, the one thing I feel confident about is thank God I know that there are so many good people that if that was to be the case, that she would have to do that research, that she'll have a great guide and a lot of guides in her life on where she should go should she run into that sort of problem.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of what we do, is that we have the solution.
Yeah. We do have a solution. It's just kind of following it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I hate signing things because my handwriting is so terrible.
Listen, you're talking to the guy with probably the worst handwriting in the history of handwriting. In 2008, when I took the bar exam, I still had to handwrite the New Jersey bar exam. And I had to practice my handwriting I had to practice my handwriting almost more than I had to study for the test. It was brutal because I was worried that they weren't going to be able to read what I wrote.
There it is.
Amazing.
Terrible.
Amazing.
Yep. You got it. And here's your fancy pen.
Yeah, fancy.
I think I've had a pen like that before. I don't know
This
where
is a Mont Blanc, and I have to tell you, I'm not a fancy guy. I'm not, truly. But I've developed a love for good pens.
Yeah. It has a nice feel to it. It's thick enough.
If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend.
Yeah, I will get one.
Yeah. Good.
All right.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. It's been great. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure. Yep. Awesome.
This episode is sponsored by Guardian Recovery. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction or mental health challenges, Guardian can help. Visit guardianrecovery.com or call the number below for confidential support and guidance.